let's just,
Yes,
take this.
While it fades to wear off a little bit. You don't want the crutch in the shot to really put over the GoFundMe.
My collar is messed up because the collar,
Just saying.
the collar underneath here, hold on.
Turn the ringer off on your.
I totally got lost. I said, man, I could have used GPS.
Yeah. There, I'll fix that. That's a nice one.
Could you hand me the Gatorade?
Yeah.
And we got a couple. Please. I'm beginning hoarse, Captain. I don't know why, but I'm beginning hoarse. I might have to talk to. There's nothing wrong with my throat. I have my throat. I went to the Mayo when I was real hoarse and coughing a lot. And they actually they X-rayed my throat, and then they actually CAT scanned my throat to rule out cancer, and it's totally ruled out, you know. But I have this. I get hoarse easy, you know, and so I've been using these menthol cough drops. Man, these lights are hot. You can't turn that air down, Captain.
What's that?
Can't you turn the air?
The air's on.
I mean, colder. I keep mine on 60, 67.
Jesus Christ.
This is Arizona, man. Plus all these lights.
Okay, I turned it down to 70 for you.
Oh, please, man. Like, we keep ours on like 67, 66. Valerie we can cover up. Can't sleep unless it's like 66 degrees. 82.
I'll reduce the light.
Do you mind just signing that I paid you there for my taxes?
Oh, man. Valerie warned me. She said, don't you dare sign anything for them. No, she did not. I remember you. Where do you want me to sign, brother?
Just under there.
Okay. Superstar or Wayne Coleman?
Wayne Coleman.
It's one illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. There won't be too much echo in here.
Hey, is it okay to tag you and just do that? Not to I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. Well, I was gonna put it on your channel too.
I might need a washcloth. I sweat easy.
The washcloth?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want me to just give you a second? We can
I sweat easy.
start them again.
You call it handle TV, right? Yeah. Do you want it wet or dry?
Just no, not wet. I just because it's gonna get wet.
I don't have a lot of washcloths, so I'm trying to, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm
Oh,
just
thank you.
for you.
I did this interview for Vince for Triple H
Yeah.
when I had the encounter with Big E.
What you gonna tell us about?
Talking Stick Arena now, the old America West Arena, the old America Arena, and they put me in a room the size of a third this big, with all their lights, cameras, and Devin, could you get
Open
the
that.
for me?
Yeah.
I just can't find it. Sorry, man. Thanks. Gotta catch my breath. I got lost. Going to Captain Rich's house. And then here I am like an idiot, banging on the door next door.
Well, I'm
I
glad
could have
you
got
came
shot. They could have looked out to the people and saw me and said, we don't want this guy in our house.
You look mad.
out. Police are probably on the
Oh,
way.
yeah. Right for the red carpet.
So you're on.
Could you not do a real tight face shot, more like,
It's not. You probably can't see what it looks like, but
I'll show you. Can you see it? It's not one of those TV close-up.
yeah, I didn't want a real tight
No, that's not.
face shot, you know,
No, you don't have a tight picture.
face. No tan. I got a lot of sun, cancer cut off. I got tons more to get cut off. Too much sun. Sunbeds. That's part of the thing that screwed up my eyes, all the sunbeds.
No,
Cataracts.
you're fairly far out. Yeah, that's what it's looked like.
did you have any cut off on your body at all?
Oh yeah, all of my shins. Still coming.
Yeah.
Those gotta come off. They're drying out now. My back, arms. I have one on my lip, for 2 years. It's called a squamous cell.
Yeah.
The doctor had to put me asleep to do it,
Wow.
and cut this thing on my bottom lip. And he said, well, this is a good thing God made our bottom lips to stretch, because I had to cut deep to get this thing out. So it's all, I got tons more to do.
Alright, so are you good to get started?
Yeah,
We'll do it like before, we'll do the introduction after over by the paintings where you introduce it, and then we'll just clip into this part. This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com, and I'm with former world champion and WWE Hall of Famer, superstar Billy Graham, the women's pet, the men's regret. What you see is what you get, and what you don't see is better yet. How are you doing today, sir?
you're doing it. You got it. You do it better than me.
I don't think anyone can do it better than you. The only person that can do you better than you is some of the things, not better than you, but maybe he was pushed a little more, was Hulk Hogan. When he took your gimmick, and Vince McMahon Jr., it wasn't Vince McMahon Sr. anymore who held you back, and then he got the big push and got over with your gimmick.
Yeah, and he also went to 24-inch pythons instead of 22.
Yeah.
So,
And apparently he's also afraid of me now, so that's alright. Doesn't matter too much. To start this off though, I'll just bring that up right away. There's a popular video on YouTube on this channel of when you reunited with Hulk Hogan about 6 years ago. It's on the Hannibal TV. I was there at WrestleCon. Has he ever had any contact with you since that day, or was that pretty much it?
not a word. No. It was really, we buried the hatchet at that WrestleCon that you were at, and had your encounter with Hulk, and so nevertheless, he's never contacted me, and I really never reached out and contacted him. So,
Did you happen to see his pornographic video?
oh no, I had no desire. No, not at all.
What do you think about all that controversy that he was involved with? They took him out of the Hall of Fame and they put him back in, and now I guess he's back appearing on their TV like nothing happened.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. He's using the N-word like in every other sentence, and his out was that he thought it was cool with the people he was talking with, he used the N-word, more or less so the black African-American folks would recognize him because they called each other the N-word, and they have every right to. But that was a very bizarre thing, and pulling him out, you know, I guess they had to do something to make it popular, and they did, but they reinstated him, so means nothing, really.
And there was a fan that had an interesting question. You've gone back and forth over Pat Patterson over the years, and of course you had that big appearance on the Phil Donahue show with McMahon and Patterson. A lot of allegations have come out over the years, including since then from guys like Sid and Kamala and others who have witnessed stuff over the years. What's your final thing to say on Patterson? Are you just neutral to him, or what do you think of him?
He was incredibly good to be during my 1 year of being his tag team partner and like a mentor.
So WWE has his network now, and people that are subscribers to the network get all the pay-per-views. Do you think if they still made money by individual buys of pay-per-views that they would have had that women's match as the WrestleMania main event this past year, or this year, 2019?
If they would have had what?
Like if they still had pay-per-views where people had to buy the pay-per-view to get WrestleMania, whereas now they subscribe to the network, and when you're a subscriber to the network, you get all the pay-per-views. So it's not like the old days where you'd call your cable company and order the pay-per-view as an individual pay-per-view.
Exactly. I don't believe that it would have been like the old school era pay-per-views that did tremendous business because Ronda Rousey was not really over. She was pushed more than any other human being, female or male, in the history of the WWE by Vince, by Triple H, by Stephanie, by the entire company. Push. She had the biggest push of anyone in the history of that company, and still was not over. You cannot convince me that she would have sold one ticket. Yes, it was the first women's main event at WrestleMania, April the 7th, this Sunday. Today is Friday the 26th, April 26th, 3 weeks ago. They were the main event. But it was a horrible match. I saw highlights of it. And it was a perfect opportunity for Vince to use those three girls, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Ronda Rousey, because of Rousey's UFC past. Even though she got her ass kicked in her last two fights, knocked out cold by Holly Holmes in Australia with a vicious side kick to the head, and then only lasted 48 seconds with Amanda Nunes from Brazil, which I watched that fight. 48 seconds, and the referee stopped it before Amanda Nunes completely took her head off, because she was already out on her feet. And I think he stopped her early. 48 seconds. So her last two appearances to the UFC were by knockout. She lost. So you cannot tell me she's the greatest UFC female fighter ever when you lose your last two by such horrific short time knockouts. And then you cry in the ring like a child. And then you tell people, she sat there and wept like a baby in the ring. And then she said she's going to commit suicide over the loss. This woman is such a mental case that I don't know how she made it through an entire 12 months, 1 year, from the first Mania to this last Mania, because she's an absolute, in my personal opinion, and a lot of other people, a total basket case. I've never been impressed by her because she would hurt women in other matches. This is documented, videotape, still photos, with that vicious armbar of hers. And then after they would tap out her opponent, she would stand over him and laugh and make these weird faces like a lunatic and belittle her opponent who's writhing in pain from that hold and tapped out, and she would laugh at him. So to me, she's disgusting. As a fighter, I've seen too much of her, and I thank God that she is on extended stay to get pregnant and have a child and raise a family. Let her go.
And speaking of wrestlers who got knocked out in UFC, Brock Lesnar actually got knocked out in 2 of his last 3 fights in the first round. His last fight was actually ultimately ruled a draw because he failed the drug test. So what's your opinion on Brock Lesnar? Obviously he's a big draw for WWE, I'm not denying that. He's making huge money. I'm just curious your opinion. He has a big body similar to your physique, and he's a monster.
Yeah, you know, I think he's a tremendous athlete. There's no question of his athletic ability, but he is the most fortunate man to work to ever wrestle for the WWF, 3 WFs, 2 WFs, and then WWE ever, because he has Paul Heyman to do his promos for him. I have seen interviews of Lesnar just standing there and not say a word because my close friend, my good buddy Paul Heyman, one of the best mouthpieces ever in pro wrestling, would cut the promo for Lesnar. So Lesnar, being a great athlete, no doubt about it. Didn't have to worry about cutting a promo. Which if you're on your own and can't cut a promo, look at these guys, they get these scripts handed to them, can't cut a promo.
Bobby Lashley. Who I like, by the way, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
And what would you say your favorite match of all time was, as well as your least favorite match of all time?
Oh, there's no question. Also, my favorite opponent would be Dusty Rhodes. And my favorite match would have been the 2 matches, the Texas Death Match in Madison Square Garden, where I went underneath the ring and pulled out a rope and threw it in because there was no disqualification, and threw this long rope in the ring. There's many pictures of that, you've seen them, and wrapped it around Dusty to choke him, and then he threw me outside and then wrapped the rope around me and choked me. And then I put my arms out purposely to make it look like a crucifixion scene. In that famous photo of me, and my feet were off the floor with that rope around my neck. And he's pulling me, laying over the top rope, and I'm stressed and my feet leave and I almost passed out, so I had to grab the rope and pull myself up to the apron. But those 2 matches, the Texas Death Match and the Bull Rope Match, inside Madison Square Garden, forever would never, the pandemonium could not be matched. Dusty Rhodes has so much charisma, and see, he just like so much magnetism, and those 2 matches were my favorite matches of all time. And of course, Dusty just loved New York, loved Madison Square Garden, loved coming up to Boston. Philadelphia, New York, Madison Square Garden, those matches.
And your least favorite that fans would know about? I mean, I'm sure you've had terrible matches with people that we've never heard of, but is there one of a wrestler we will know?
Probably because I wasn't a very good worker.
Oh, you were a great.
I wasn't that good of a wrestler.
Well, you hold the Madison Square Garden sellout record, 19 out of 20. So if you're judging it by
True.
popularity, that's what I judge as a good wrestler.
Well, yes, that's the most sellouts percentage, highest percentage of sellouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Bruno has the most, but you have the highest percentage.
Yes, exactly right. So, but that was all because of the charisma involved and the promos involved, and just the fans that never. I was very fortunate to come in at that time and of the basically era of the Black Trunks, and there was no color, there was no. I basically broke the mold, and the fans just. New York. So there was more. It was definitely not the wrestling matches, the actual physical matches that sold out the building. It was the promos that I made people believe that Bruno or Putski or Mil Mascaras or whoever I wrestled would indeed suffer pain and bleed. And in those days you could say bleed. And I used a promo one time that aired that I had taken Dianabol and testosterone to get ready for this match. And it aired. And now
I actually saw that promo. I think Mike shared it on your Facebook. That was hilarious. We were all talking about this. Actually, a fan wanted me to ask you this, and I know you don't mind saying it. What was the best steroid cycle you ever did?
Oh, I don't know, because I never went off. I never, especially during my wrestling, that period, because I didn't want to go off and start losing my physique. So I just kept on taking, abusing, and to stay at my best, because I was a champion and I didn't want to go off. I didn't want to cycle like I should have intelligently done. So I don't know.
And what do you think about Cody Rhodes and the new All Elite Wrestling promotion that everyone's talking about?
Well, I did read some comments by the owner, Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he seems to really believe that they're committed to 5 years. They're going to have a good television. Didn't mention the station, and he actually said that he's going to take it back to 20 years at least. And I don't know if that's really going to happen. When I read that Cody's going to have transgender wrestlers as part of the talent pool, but I did notice in a photograph when Cody had that press conference in Jacksonville, and he was at the podium, and the two wrestlers next to him looked awful small. And I actually on that subject, I think I read a quote from Cody, because by the way, for all you fans, I do not sit there and sit through 3 hours of Raw and sit through all of those commercials and watch the repetitive promos and I get my information from all of the wrestling sites, and mostly Dave Meltzer. Anything Dave Meltzer says is gold. Anything Dave Meltzer says, if he misses it, it'll be right the next day if he misses something. So that's where I get my information.
And here's a question. Now, this is probably never going to happen, but you did tell me in the past, if WWE ever used me again, you walk me to the ring. if I ever wrestled in Madison Square Garden. If I ever wrestled Cody Rhodes in All Elite Wrestling, would you walk me to it?
Oh, yes, I would. Yes, I would. I would walk you to the ring. I would absolutely be honored to. And they should use you. Cody Rhodes, Cody, listen to me. We had a good talk 4 years ago when you were still with the WWE. I'm talking to you right now, Cody. Right now. I know you're going to hear this. It'll get out there. I think you're doing a great job. It's going to be a fantastic success. But you need to hire Hannibal. You need this man on your roster. Take him from Superstar Billy Graham. I'm endorsing my endorsement. I'm endorsing Hannibal and urging you, Cody, to get a hold of him and talk to the man and sign him to a contract, because he is a supreme excellent worker and is a believable promo man, and I personally have helped him with his promos and threw out ideas for him in his promos, which was an honor for me to help such a talented man. So I'm going on record right now, Cody Rhodes. You and I talked, and you talked about the belt buckle. I gave your dad, and you still have that belt buckle. And Dusty won that so bad. I paid $1,000 for this beautiful silver belt buckle with the stars on it. Had it custom made, and Dusty wanted it, and I took it off and gave it to your father. So on your father, my dearest friend and my favorite opponent, I'm asking you to please seriously consider contacting Hannibal, Devin Nicholson, and signing this man up. He will be plus. He will be faithful and a plus to your organization. And I urge you to contact him and negotiate and sign him, because he will do nothing but good for your talent pool and your the quality of people that you want. So that's coming right from Superstar Billy Graham to you, Cody. Sign Hannibal.
Well, thank you very much.
And that was a free. I didn't get paid to say that. That was free. Sign Hannibal.
I really appreciate that. And one guy that you endorsed on screen that we never talked about in any of our other interviews was Don Morocco. Do you have any memories of him, and what exactly happened there? He was getting the push with you as a manager, then something happened where I heard there was an incident with him and an agent, and he was released or something?
Something happened with the Don Morocco one?
No, with an agent, like why he got released by WWE, because you guys were getting the push there with you managing Morocco.
I don't know what happened with Don Morocco, why. I know I was having health problems. I was having health problems even as a manager traveling because of my hips. I would have to, when I got off of the airplane and go to a baggage claim, I'd have to stop at a restroom just to sit down and rest my back. Because my spine has collapsed 4 inches. I've lost 4 inches of height because of a collapsed spine. So I was having problems traveling, and Vince finally just said, well, let's try you at commentating, color commentating, which I really enjoyed, and I really believe that Vince should have gave me a longer shot at it, a longer run, because I really felt like I was doing a good job. And just needed more time to get into the room, but it didn't happen.
You did commentate.
And he said, I'm going to have to put you in the bullpen, Superstar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he called me.
But you called the first SummerSlam, and that obviously is...
Yeah, the SummerSlam, first ever SummerSlam with Gorilla Monsoon. And that was a joy, that was a pleasure. And I thought he did a good job at it.
Any memories, speaking of that, about Bruce Pritchard? He's had a resurgence. He's back on the creative team. I know you worked with him a bit in that last run you had.
Yeah, not really. Bruce Pritchard's, I know...
Brother Love.
His brother,
Tom Pritchard.
We're very good friends, and traded autograph pictures and everything, but I know he has a brilliant mind for the business, but I also know that there's the creative team, the creative team for professional wrestling, WWE. I don't know how many people they have, but I do know, like everyone else knows, that Vince just hired Dana Warrior to the creative team, and according to Dave Meltzer, because why is this lady on the creative team? She's already been made a goodwill ambassador for the WWE and makes appearances for the WWE as a goodwill ambassador, Dana Warrior.
Oh, this is the Ultimate Warrior's ex?
The Ultimate Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah, well, was a great guy. And I'm really sorry about his passing. This is nothing, I don't know the lady. I'm sure she's a very nice lady. But she's been signed, and Meltzer had just reported this a few weeks ago, that she has been elevated to a very high position on the creative team that only Vince, Triple H, Stephanie, and a few other people sit in on. The rest of the creative team are in another room, and she has been inserted into the upper echelon with Vince himself, and her initial quote that she gave to the press about joining and wanting to be on the creative team is because she thought that the WWE could use a woman's perspective on wrestling.
Well, isn't Stephanie McMahon already head of creative?
I have no idea. But that was Dana Warrior's quote, that she wanted to give the creative team a woman's perspective about professional wrestling, which is beyond me, Hannibal. It's beyond me how Vince could say, yes, we need you on our creative team because we need a woman's perspective about professional wrestling. I'm sorry. But I'm happy she has a job. I wish he would have thought about me. I've got a little bit of creative ability. but nevertheless, I only wish her the best. But I found it bizarre.
Well, I find it bizarre just because it's a product that is mostly viewed by males, young males. So to have an older woman writing, whether it's Stephanie or any other older women, is just weird. How are they going to know what young males to middle-aged males are going to
The age demographic is what, 18 to 48 or
Yeah,
something like that?
something like that.
Male?
Yeah.
And they're the most, people who view it the most? Well, how is a woman's perspective going to help that age group? And speaking of being added to the creative team, and just read this the other day, just 2 days ago, they released their first quarter earnings, and their stock, I have the note right here, the share was at $98 a share, and the first quarter dropped to $84 a share, approximately a 15% drop. And that equated into a $1 billion loss for the company, which is nothing for the company, but they still lost $1 billion from the first quarter of this year, 2019. And it's very strange, but I heard Vince say this. I saw him and I heard it with my own ears and saw it all night. He said, I'll never forget it, and it's true. This man said, the WWE will be so much better off once I kick the bucket. Once I die and I'm gone, the WWE will be much better off. Why? Because he micromanages everything. He changes finishes 30 minutes before a match. The things I've read, his micromanaging and changing a promo and changing a finish of a match. He micromanages everything. Of course it will be better off. I don't want Vince to die. I hope he lives to be 90. I'm 75, and I think Vince and I are close to the same age. And so, but it's everything that Vince even knows for a fact that he over micromanages the inner workings of them and will actually be better off. Now that means that Triple H, of course, will inherit where Vince is, once Vince, well, I hope Vince a long, productive life. He's always been very healthy, trained, very dedicated to bodybuilding, and I wish him nothing but a long, healthy life.
And speaking of that, this was a question I had for you. What do you think Vince actually owes his past wrestlers as far as, and his current wrestlers as far as 401ks, health insurance, and so forth? Like,
well, health insurance is very bizarre, but actually it's been the history of pro wrestling, Hannibal, that I don't think there's ever been any promoter from Vern Gagne, the AWA, to Paul Bosch in Houston, to Roy Shires in San Francisco, to Mike LaBelle in Los Angeles, to Eddie Graham in Florida, all the way up to Vince, that has ever given any wrestler health insurance. However, if you're in the office and work at a computer and you're an executive or a secretary or just work in the office, period, you have health insurance. You're covered. But does the wrestler who, and the injuries, I want to know this. What's happened to Daniel Bryan? What's happened? He lost to Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania, we know that. It'll be 3 weeks this coming Sunday. He got hurt. And they have kept the lid on what is wrong with Daniel Bryan. You cannot pry it out of anyone. What is wrong with this man? He has not wrestled since WrestleMania. 3 weeks, and there has been no word of what is wrong with him. Obviously, he has another concussion. I'm just guessing, but probably that kick that Kofi Kingston has, that kick, side kick to the head, it's hard to pull that kick. I've watched that kick over and over. Kofi's a great worker. There's no question about his gymnastic ability and his flying skills and all of this. But that kick to the head, also Sheamus is out. And they believe it's from that side kick to the head in the tag match they had that Kofi landed on Sheamus's head, and Sheamus is out with the injury. But I don't know. I want to know, what's the secrecy? What is the secrecy that you can't tell us? What's his name? Daniel Bryan. Nice guy, I'm sure. Never met the guy, and I never will, because I will never be invited to a WWE locker room again, ever. Even after I get my hip fixed, I get my heart fixed, and I get my lungs fixed, I'm short of breath, a breathing problem, and all that. Anyway, I will never meet this young man, but I know he's a fine young man. But Vince, can't you tell us what is wrong physically, medically, But then the NFL will tell you if a player gets carried off the field. The NBA, a basketball player gets hurt. They tell you if this guy was the champion. He was the Daniel Bryan was the WWE champion. That is the same championship that I held. The tradition goes all the way back to me, Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales, Ivan Koloff, the Iron Sheik, the Hulk Hogan, Buddy Rogers. That's the same belt that Kofi Kingston now wears, and Daniel Bryan lost. But we cannot get an answer as to why. And today I'm doing this interview. I don't know when it's going to be edited by Hannibal and put on his YouTube channel, but today as I sit here in Captain Rich's house, who by the way has let us use his home for this interview here in Phoenix. Captain Rich is a former Phoenix Fire Department captain and was one of the first responders at 9/11 representing Phoenix, the fire department for Phoenix. He led the crew to help in the World Trade Center. So I'm very proud of Captain Rich to have as a friend, and that I admire him so much for being one of the first responders. But I just don't understand. And a collector of my art, which I hope you get to show. He has a lot of my art, and but I don't understand why. I don't understand why they cannot tell us what is wrong with Daniel Bryan. It's simple. Does he have another concussion? We know he was out for years because the WWE medical staff would not clear him. He was cleared by other doctors, but the WWE doctors would not clear him until it got very close to the end of his contract. They finally cleared him, and then wrestling. They did a fantastic job wrestling as the WWE champion, even though I think he was a little bit small.
There's a quick fan question, but a good one. Did they ever, you're under a WWE Legends contract now, you've explained to me before your last royalty payment was only $75 or something, but did they ever ask you to come to their NXT Performance Center to teach a promo class? And if they had, would you have?
Did they ever ask me what?
To come to the NXT Performance Center to teach promo class to the
Early on, I had discussed that on the telephone with Triple H. We talked about, and I had given it some real deep thought, and talked it over with my wife Valerie about going to Florida and being a part of the developmental center that Triple H so wisely built, and helping the guys cut promos, and then we talked about it some more, and finally we just came to the conclusion that my health really was too unpredictable at that time, and it would be best if you had really chosen someone else. And I'm glad I didn't, because I really wouldn't have enjoyed it. Because you, no matter what you teach them, they're still going to have a script handed to them that they have to follow. So it eventually I wouldn't have enjoyed it. But it was, we did talk about it, Triple H and I.
What was your favorite lift to do in the gym, and what were your top 3 best lifts when you were at your peak?
My favorite
lift, like, did you have a favorite exercise to do in the gym, and then also what were your top 3 best lifts?
Oh, I did a lot of benching. I did a lot of tricep work, a lot of neck work. I thought a big, thick neck was very impressive to have, and I did a lot of tricep work. I thought triceps were very important part of the overall physique, and benching, and I did in fact bench press, I believe it was 605 at the time, before I started wrestling with Arnold Schwarzenegger spotting me in the original Gold Gym back in like 1969. So bench pressing was really my favorite lift.
And a lot of fans and autograph people have asked why you don't do autograph appearances, and that is directly because of your health issues, right? And we're going to put up a video related to your GoFundMe where you explain that.
Yes, exactly. It's impossible for me to travel. I'm waiting on my GoFundMe to get up there enough where I can have this hip operation, a revision, very complicated, extremely complicated operation. I've had 5 hip revisions on my left hip, and it's been dislocated probably 4 different times. I've had four dislocations where the ball of your femur, the head of your femur, was up near my ribs. And that doesn't feel good, him. I can take the pain, but boy, when you get a hip dislocation, plus what made mine was Red Bastien had a couple dislocations, but and went in and still had a little get together with John Tolis and some other guys back in the day, and his hip was dislocated as soon as he got out of the car. But the difference between his and my dislocation is I had more muscle mass, and they couldn't reinsert the hip into the socket because my muscle mass grabbed my femur and ball of the head of the femur, and just they couldn't put it back in manually, so they had to put me to sleep, knock you out, and literally go in and reset it. And then I had to wear a cast. Oh my God, what torture. I had to wear an old school cast. Now they have braces. Of course, technology's improved. But I had to wear this cast all the way around me and down to my pelvis so I wouldn't bend over, because bending, my doctor told me that I would be back if I go to wrestling, if I wrestle after my first hip operation. He said, you're telling me, superstar, you're gonna wrestle after I fix your hip, after my first hip operation? He said, well, if you do, you'll be back in my office in 3 years or less, because you're gonna wear your hip out. And I'm gonna put another hip in you. And he said, and sure enough, that's when I went on the road. I made the comeback in 1987 and ruined my hip, went back in, and Dr. Dorr, Los Angeles, world-renowned hip replacement specialist, put my hip back together again. And he said, by the way, if you go back to wrestling, I'll never work on your hip again. I said, I'm retiring. Doctor, don't worry about it. And as soon as on that second hip surgery, my first 5 minutes home from the hospital in Hannibal, I sat down in the chair, just like I'm sitting on this couch. My wife, Valerie, went to the store to get some food. I was released from the hospital in Los Angeles. The telephone rings and it's on the floor. And instinctively I bend over to pick up the telephone, and I bent too far and my hip comes out of joint. The first 5 minutes home after my second hip put in, 5 minutes, and the hip, it came out, oh my God. So I hobbled out of the car, laid down in the back seat, my wife took me back to the hospital, and I reset my hip. And that started the whole sequence of problems with my left hip. That's why it's so bad to this day.
You haven't done any videos since Bruno Sammartino passed away. What are your thoughts on his passing and Bruno Sammartino dying, and what was your favorite memory of him from outside?
Oh, Bruno, yeah, it's a tragedy, but I don't know. Did he make it into his early 80s.
I think it was 82.
82, something like that. He had a great life. He was a great man. There was never a rumor about him. There was never anything salacious about him. He was always a gentleman to me, and the fans worshipped him because in that era, it was all about ethnic Italians, and Pedro Morales was champion Puerto Ricans. So it was really a great honor to wrestle Bruno, but he was tired. Vince Sr. told me that. He said, Bruno is tired, and the mats we had back in that era, Hannibal, most of them were boxing rings, which are hard. He didn't have the give like in Madison Square Garden.
I've wrestled in some boxing rings.
You wrestled in some boxing, they're hard. There's very little give. And it just, so many years of Bruno working all those towns and on boxing rings and bad rings like that, totally wore him out. And it was just time for him to retire. And I was honored to be chosen to have Bruno pass the torch to me, and think nothing but great fond memories of him, and willing to sell, willing to lay down and let you beat the crap out of them and sell and put you over. No ego with Bruno Sammartino. And that was, and of course I did the same for him. Obviously, I enjoyed selling, as a matter of fact. That's probably my best part of my wrestling skill, was selling. So, but Bruno was the exact same way, so I have nothing but praise and good fond memories of Bruno Sammartino.
And do you have any memories of Ivan Putski?
Oh yes, Ivan Putski. Oh my gosh, he was so over. I'd worked with Ivan Putski at the AWA for Vern Gagne, and in many towns, and Polish Power, and Chicago, and different places. He was so over. Then in New York, he was so over. Nothing but fond memories of Ivan, and he was a little bit difficult to work with because he was shorter and blocky. So it was a little bit of a different situation. But we still had just power matches, and we just basically bear hugs, full Nelsons, and very simple matches. But he would sell out. Polish Power, he would sell out. He was over, and one of my fondest memories is his friendship in the locker room and on the road.
Before we get into your notes there, any memories of wrestling in Allentown? They used to do all the TV tapings there.
Oh, Allentown. Yeah, I mean, very simple stuff. TV taping, and back then, one thing compared to current times is that the champion didn't have to wrestle every week on television. Now the champion, it may not be a championship match, but the champion is on Raw or SmackDown, whatever, Universal Champion or United States Champion or the Intercontinental Champion or whatever, WWE Champion. They're wrestling every week on television, and that was so unnecessary. It is so unnecessary to see the champion. You don't have to wrestle, but you would cut your promos. So that was one of the great things about my era, which already is 2 generations removed. And so you didn't have to wrestle every week on TV, but you would pre-cut your promos. And so it was not necessary to get in the ring. But when you did, in my case, it would be a squash job. And you had great guys willing to do a 5-minute squash job. And of course, I had the advantage of the Grand Wizard being my manager and having all the outlandish things that he would do, and taking off my shirt, my sunglasses, combing my hair, and it was a good match. At first, I didn't like it. When Vince McMahon told me he was going to put me with the Grand Wizard, when I came in, I said, wait a minute, Vince, this is Vince Senior. I said, Vince, I don't need a manager to get over or to help me with promos. And he says, Billy, I'll never forget this Vince Senior sitting in that old Philadelphia arena on the bench. He said, Billy, Ernie Roth, Grand Wizard, he is the best mouthpiece of the business. And I said, oh, I know. I said, I just don't need anyone to help me with my promos. I'm very confident in my promos. And so we discussed it, and he said, Billy, this is a great line. He said, Billy, just do it for me. I just met you. Vince and I laughed, and Vince had a smile, had a great smile, Vince Senior, and he laughed. And I said, I just met you. Why don't we just do it for you? And so, of course, I said, yes, let's do it. And I said, I'll make it work for the Grand Wizard. I'll use the Grand Wizard, and we'll work on the thing together, and we'll make it work. So, but the line, Billy, just do it for me. I found it very, I just met you, Vince. What do you mean, just do it for you? I thought that was kind of funny.
And we're going to get into these notes you have on the situation with Kofi Kingston and Booker T, but all the fans wanted to know, for a while there was some heat between you and Chris Jericho. Just quickly, that's all over with now, right?
Did I what?
You don't hold any heat towards Chris Jericho anymore, do you?
Oh, no. Chris Jericho, I'll never forget when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. In the back, as we were lined up ready to go out, Chris Jericho, I don't know how it started, I don't even know what the word is, disagreements that we supposedly had, how that got started. You know how?
It was something he wrote in his book that maybe wasn't entirely true, and you took offense to it, but you were going through some rough times at that time as well. And
I see. Okay, that's right. So it was something he wrote in the book. Okay.
Yeah.
And so anyway, backstage at the Hall of Fame in 2004, when I was being inducted by Triple H. Thank you, Triple H. It was a great induction, by the way. It was an honor to have you induct me into the WWF Hall of Fame. So anyway, Chris Jericho came over to me backstage, and I was sitting down while we were waiting to go out on the platform, and said, hey, superstar, he says, I just want to apologize for anything that I may have said, or, I said, hey, brother, don't worry about it, man. I said, I say things that I should have never said so many times. I said, man, let's just bury that hatchet right now. I got up, shook his hand, gave him a big hug, and I think he's a great guy. You're a great guy, Chris Jericho, if you hear this.
And you have something you want to clear up. Booker T's made some comments, and I guess regarding some comments you made about Kofi Kingston, and you got some notes here that you wanted to go over.
Well, the thing is, the Booker T, excuse me, take a drink up. What happened was, I made a comment on my Facebook about Kofi Kingston being way too small to really adequately represent a WWE champion. And I and I suggested, and I actually urged Colby to use some steroids. And so that statement created complete hysteria in the wrestling universe. All the sites picked it up, you heard about it in Canada, everywhere. And oh my God, superstar Billy Graham is telling Kofi Kingston to use steroids. Oh my God, like it was the sin of all sins. And so Booker T, I love you, brother. I love you. When I was backstage, you came over to me, man. We hugged each other, and you watched me wrestle in Houston when he was in Houston, Texas. He watched me wrestle, and I got pictures of our first meeting at the Hall of Fame. So anyway, he gave me a big hug, and we sat down and talked. Me and Booker that time I was in Phoenix when Triple H called me and asked me to go down and do some interviews for their files about how it was years ago. And so anyway, I made that mention that I would urge Kofi to use some steroids to put on some bulk, to add some size to him. I just thought he would look better because maybe I'm prejudiced of being because I was a bodybuilder all my life, and I came from a big man era, and so I mean you don't get much bigger than the Ultimate Warrior or Sid Vicious, Kevin Nash, some pretty big guys. So that anyway created complete hysteria, and so Booker was on the podcast. I forgot who the guy was. He got into the podcast, and then Booker says, Booker T has a stack of papers in front of him, and he says, I gotta get into the superstar telling Kofi Kingston to take steroids. And he says, superstar. He said, man, we lost too many people to drugs. This is Booker T speaking now. He starts off with that. He said, superstar, we lost way too many boys to drugs. Yes, we lost Kurt Hennig to an overdose, sadly. I love Kurt Hennig. Like a kid. I love this guy. Valerie, by the way, he rode with me and Valerie from New York to Boston, and when he got in the car and I introduced her to Valerie, he said, that's your wife? I said, yeah. He said, she's too pretty to be your wife. I said, get out of my car. Kurt Hennig. So anyway, that was one of the folks who had an accidental overdose. Yeah. And so he threw out this subject that we lost too many guys to drugs. So he lumped, first of all, he made a mistake there, Booker. You're lumping my suggestion to Kofi to use steroids with recreational drugs. So that was the first mistake you made by saying, oh, we lost too many boys. Too many guys are gone because of drugs. Well, then he went into this stack of papers, Booker, and he said, look at this. Admitted to the hospital for internal bleeding. Admitted to the hospital for a blockage of some kind. A liver transplant. On and on and scolding me and reprimanding me about suggesting and urging Kofi to use steroids to enhance his look, because I thought it's important to have a better look. Kofi Kingston looks like he weighs about 150, 60, 70 pounds. He looks like, I've seen gymnasts with better physiques than Kofi. That's true. Wide shoulders, those guys that do the iron crosses. Some gymnasts look fantastic, unbelievable physiques on some of these gymnasts. And I just threw that out there, but Booker Booker threw the book at me. Booker, that's a good line. Booker T threw the book at me and went through a whole list of illnesses that I've had, and you don't know what I've had, really, and why I've had these illnesses, because you have not seen the records from the Mayo Clinic Hospital, where I've had all these issues. The doctors in the Mayo Clinic Hospital will not release my official medical records to you, Booker T. So what you were reading from was probably a post or somebody, you know, writing about a problem I had. So you made a big mistake, Booker T. And I still love you, man. I love you. I love Booker T. He was a legit dude, the real guy, a great champion. And he was big, man. At one point, started to cramp a little bit. At one point, Booker T was huge. I'm not saying Booker took steroids. He probably did. You can't get that big without taking steroids. There's nothing wrong with that, Booker. But I'm just saying you made a mistake. And I had to come back on my Facebook. And thank you, Devin, for starting my Facebook. Devin, by the way, Hannibal started my Facebook. And Mike Grito down in Florida does the maintenance and all the updates for me. I had to come back and stress that I did not tell or urge Kofi Kingston to abuse steroids like I did and cause tremendous hip damage. And by the way, Booker, as I said on my Facebook post, I did not have a liver transplant because of steroids. I had a liver transplant because I contracted hepatitis C by cutting my head open with a razor blade, just like you did and all of us did in the 70s. And we bled on each other, and we had co-mingling bloodbaths. And so whatever disease my opponent had, I would get, and vice versa. Because it's a blade job, razor blade. And I contracted hepatitis C, Booker T, and that's what took out my liver. Not steroids, but doing blade jobs and contracting hepatitis C, which, by the way, I have been cured of. Thank God for the technology, just as Hannibal, sitting here asking me these questions and doing this interview, has been cured of hepatitis C going on, I believe, 5 years now. And he went through hell for 7 or 8 months of interferon and really toxic poisons. Some people refuse to take that type of treatment and just would rather die because the treatment is worse than having hepatitis C. But he endured it and he got clean. And so he's been clean of hepatitis C, and you give a blood test, and so and they check your blood, there's no trace. He's been clean for 5 years. He has no hepatitis C virus in his bloodstream, period. Cody Rhodes, he's clean. Just like me. The Mayo Clinic came up, said, oh my God, we see in our records that you have never been treated for hepatitis C. We've given you a liver transplant, which saved my life. I was 30 days away from dying. And when I got my liver transplant, and thank God for Kate Gilroy, 23-year-old young girl here in Phoenix that had a car crash. It was a donor, and I got her liver. So you gotta understand, Booker T, you just can't be putting papers around and calling out illnesses that I've had because people get the wrong idea. And so I don't want an apology. I'm not that. I don't need an apology, Booker. Just don't be talking about my health issues when you do not have access to my health records. I do not know what you've been through health-wise, because I don't have your health records. And I wouldn't talk about it anyway. But just don't You made a mistake, Booker. You talked like you hated me, as a matter of fact. Okay? Booker T, I'm talking to you, brother. You talked on that podcast like you hated my guts. All right? For suggesting to Kofi Kingston, who weighs about 160 pounds, who's probably the nicest guy in the world, by urging him to do a cycle of steroids to put on some lean muscle mass. You buried me, brother. And I do not appreciate it. However, I do not also hold a grudge. I just want you to know, man, and everybody else, don't be going on all these podcasts and talking about stuff you have no documentation to back up. Because that's very serious business when you talk about a man's health and you don't have the medical documents, which the Mayo Clinic would never release to anyone but me, the patient. So I went back and made a Facebook posting and I said, I didn't tell Kofi Kingston or urge him to abuse steroids. I simply mentioned Captain Rich for Kofi Kingston to use steroids for a few cycles, 6 weeks, go off to add some muscle mass. So that's what I wanted to make clear, and thank you for the opportunity. And Booker, I still love you, brother. It's a done deal.
You've been generous with your time here. You've given us a good hour, so we hope that we're going to catch up with you another time and do another interview with you. But you talked about hepatitis C so much. There's one guy that passed away, I understand, from hepatitis C related complications, who used to work with Ivan Koloff.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Ivan waited too long to get treatment, and sadly he succumbed to
He couldn't afford
liver
treatment,
failure.
I think, because he had to go GoFundMe shortly before he died. But
Yeah.
he never could afford
But it was too late. He went too late. It was too far progressed. But I'd like to read a quote from Kofi Kingston, and this shows. Kofi's been in the business, I've read 13, 14 years maybe. 11, 12, 13 years?
since at least 2006.
Okay, do the math. After winning the belt from Daniel Bryan, he did an interview with TMZ. And this is the mindset of Kofi Kingston. This is one quote. I'm gonna read the exact quote. Because I suggested in my Facebook posting that the Big E and Xavier Woods, the New Day, his partners, turn on him and go heel, and you would have a tremendous run against the Big E and against Xavier Woods and also Daniel Bryan, but obviously he will never wrestle again, it appears. But one of the first interviews Kofi Kingston gave, I saw it, I wrote it down word for word, and we'll wrap it up with this. And this is no knock on Kofi, this is just where his head is at. He was talking to TMZ, and Kofi Kingston says, our philosophy, the New Day, our philosophy is to lift your brother up. That is the goal. Kofi Kingston added, when we come out, we skip, we clap, I twerk. I think twerking is shaking your ass. I believe that's what twerk means. Okay? I twerk. I wear unicorn horns. We wear pink. I wore pink. That's not a bad thing. I wore pink. I wore it well. I wear blue. We throw pancakes out. We throw ice cream out. Bootios. Everything is not your typical style. This is Kofi Kingston. Okay. So for us to break up, God forbid, don't break up the New Day. I know they do a lot of merchandise. I know that kids buy it. I know they're probably the #1 merchandise. Anyway, God forbid you shoot an old school angle and Big E or someone turns on you. To break up is the opposite of New Day. Just doing the standard fare. It just won't happen. Everything we do together. That is the mindset of your current WWE champion. And I just showed you how it's changed. My mindset is to shoot an angle and have the guy, your brothers, turn on you and beat the hell out of you. And then you have matches with them and you defend your championship and you got a whole run there. But that's old school thinking. So I was just trying to help Kofi Kingston. And would you mind if I included my encounter with the Big E?
Whatever you want, it's all yours.
I'll wrap it up with this. About 4 years ago, before I even really was doing a lot of Facebook, Triple H called me, and SmackDown was in Phoenix. Triple H and Stephanie were in LA doing some promotional stuff. Vince wasn't even there. It was Mark Carino, the head of talent, was running the place. Triple H called me and said, "Superstar, I want you to come down to SmackDown and do a couple hours of interviews about the old days and give you a good payoff." And I said, "Sure, that'd be great." So I went down and did a couple hours, and they actually asked me about Gorgeous George. I said, "I don't know anything about Gorgeous George." He was pretty good with the video I've seen, but anyway, after the interview was over, 2 hours worth of interview, I went into the catering room, and where all the guys were sitting around eating, because they provide food, because you're there all day long, for you folks who don't know. And so I go into the catering room, and I sit down, and I grab some bananas and some stuff and some water. And Jerry Lawler is sitting down next to me. Mark Carino, the other talent, sitting next to me. And then in comes Booker T. And Booker T gives me a big hug and sits down and we start talking. And then Sheamus came over, the big Scottish, Irish guy, the Mohawk. Fantastic. I said, "Man, you're a great heel. That white skin, that pale look you got, you get heat with that piece open." And he just gave me a big hug. The Mexican, the big El Patron.
Oh, Alberto El Patron.
Alberto El Patron. He came running over to me. Said, "Oh, I want to meet you so bad." I said, "Man, I'm a big fan of yours. I'm a fan of yours, brother. You're a fan of me." And so, a lot of guys were very, very, very nice to me. I sit down and I turn around, one table over, 6 feet, barely from me to you, Hannibal, 6 feet away, sets
JD.
the Big E and Xavier Woods. Big E stood there like this. And I looked at the Big E. I said, "Big E, Big E." And he wouldn't look. And Mark Carino actually turned around and said, "Big E, Superstar wants to tell you something." And so he still didn't look at me. I said, "Big E, brother, your arms," that's what I said to the Big E. "You sit 6 feet away from me." I said, "Your arms are the size of bowling balls, man. You look fantastic. You got the best looking arms outside of Arnold Schwarzenegger I've ever seen, man. You look fantastic. What does Big E say? Nothing. And what did he do? That was his response to me. Now, I don't deserve to be bowed down to. But all he did was snub me, Big E, and I want to know one thing. And I'm going to close out with this. With that snub, are you a racist? Are you a racist against, I'm a white man. Did you snub all white men? Are you a racist, Big E? Because you didn't even look at me. And I gave you a compliment. And all you did was snub me. So I want to know if you're a racist. And if you are, Vince, you need to do something about it. Because your company does not need racists. I'm not a racist. I love Black Brother, to Ernie Ladd, the big cat. I traveled with that man. I ate with that man. He was a mentor to me. I tag teamed with JYD, Junkyard Dog. I love Booker T.
Butch Reed, you liked? He got along with you too?
Huh?
Butch Reed as well?
Butch Reed, I worked on an angle with Butch Reed. I worked with him, had great matches. Well, for me, it was great. But I love Butch Reed. S.D. Jones, back when he passed away. S.D. Jones, Black Brother. I would ask S.D. Jones if he needed a ride, a jobber. Black jobber. I love S.D. Jones. Love that man. So I am not a racist. I have black brothers that I love. But I'm questioning you. Are you a racist? Big E, end of interview.
Very passionate. you still are great at promos.
I hope we get a million hits with that.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
That's a jab.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in there.
Okay.
I won't be able to fully edit it until I get back, but I'll put some clips out.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, we have a lot of.
Of course. But look at this guy. Look at this guy.
That's Buster.
Buster.
Here, I gotta get a picture of you two.
No.
Yeah, you gotta get
Oh,
that.
Barry will love this. Oh, Barry,
I'll
look
do
at
that
this.
too.
Superstar, look at me.
Look at this little doggy. Whoa. You better look at the camera now. Oh, there you go. Oh, another one.
Alright,
Oh,
Buster.
you're not that cutie too.
Come on, Buster, come
Buster's
here.
gonna knock over.
Come here.
Oh,
Alright,
you
I
got
got
4 dogs. My God, you gotta kill him here.
I got 4.
Go.
My God, man's got 4 dogs. Oh, he's so
I'm
cute.
gonna
This guy's so cute.
Superstar.
Oh. Oh. You're just a cutie.
That's gonna be an Instagram clip.
Okay, there you go.
Did you get Superstar with Superstar?
What a cutie.
Is this, you know her name?
What's her name?
Superstar.
Oh, her name is. Oh, you named it after me.
For 7 years.
Huh?
7 years
No.
ago. Yep. This is Superstar and where's Dusty? That's Dusty Rhodes, right here.
Dusty Road in.
Yep, Superstar and Dusty Rhodes.
Oh my gosh.
I never got a picture with you before at our wedding when we met Superstar.
Oh.
So yeah, that's her. Come on,
Well, I think we got a good one.
Buster.
I want a million hits. I'm shooting for a million hits.
Buster,
Thank
come
you
here.
for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates.